Okay, YouTubers, this is the Angryprepper. So today's video, we're going to talk about, are we going to be relocated to camps? Now, this subject has come up multiple times, probably over the last, 10, 15 years in the prepper community. If you go on any prepper forum, they have talked about relocation camps or FEMA facilities and all this other crazy shit that everybody thought would never happen until it did. And now we are watching this conversation happen in real time, or rather in real life, when you have states talk about developing quarantine facilities. So I did a video called the Assembly Bill A416 Pushback. This video here. This video was done back in January. The bill, Assembly Bill A416 in New York State, was introduced back in January. Now, back in January, it was in the introduction stage. It has moved to the committee stage, where I guess the committee, the New York State Assembly senators, are looking at this bill, probably still looking at it. And in the committee stage, it can take a while. Now, I find it interesting, guys, that it moved up the ladder to the committee stage, meaning that now there are more eyes on this bill and people are looking at it. But keep in mind, the people of New York State had a blowout with this bill and pushed back, and then it sort of died. So I thought it would have died in the introduction stage, but it didn't. It moved to committee. So again, guys, it still has legs, if you will, and it's still moving along. Now, guys, New York State Assembly Bill A416, basically they want to remove anybody who is a danger to the public health. Whether you're a carrier or you're a contact of somebody who's a carrier, meaning you got in contact with somebody who's a carrier of a communicable disease, they would like to remove you from society or remove you out of wherever you are because you cause a potential danger to the public health. That's New York State's bill. So now, there are a few bills, guys, throughout the United States that have similar language. Not saying they are the exact same bill, but they have the same exact, if not similar language in their bills or their version to remove people from the public if they present a danger to the public health. Now, the big question is, guys, where are they going to remove us to? Are they going to remove us to a camp? Are they going to remove us to a sanctioned facility? Or are they going to tell us to quarantine at home? Right? And if they tell us to quarantine at home, are they going to pay us whatever kind of money they need to be paid while we're home because we're missing out on work? Now, obviously, guys, the camp thing, the sanctioned facilities, we can see that happening. But that is super aggressive. And as of right now, I don't see them being super aggressive, though the fact that they're talking about it will suggest otherwise. Now, they're talking about it, guys, because they want to kick that can down the road for somebody else to entertain. So they might not want to entertain it right now, but nonetheless, if they're talking about it, they're going to entertain it at a later date. So always keep in mind that these bills that pop up, just because they pop up doesn't mean it's going to happen right away, but it could definitely be something we need to entertain down the road. Now, the CDC has something similar to this called the shielding approach. It's an Operation Shielding Approach against COVID-19. So the CDC had something similar to this, but it is directly related to COVID-19, and it works in the opposite, if you will. So instead of taking potentially dangerous people who have a communicable disease on board, whereas in New York State they say communicable disease, so that can mean any disease that spreads or transmits easily. The CDC would like to remove or relocate people who are high risk or have underlying medical conditions out of a high transmission zone, or let's say New York City, California, and take those people and put them in something called the green zone, which for them is a safer zone. So they take these people for their protection and put them somewhere where it's nice and sanctioned and they don't have to worry about catching COVID or whatever they're going to catch. Now, the one thing about the CDC's shielding approach for COVID-19 is that it's actually for a humanitarian scale. So it's not for the American citizen. It's for, let's say, Afghanistan situation or the Mexicans running across the border. Humanitarian scale, guys, is what it's for. It's not so much for us United States citizen or the everyday citizen, if you will. Now again, guys, this is for people who are high risk. So this is also to prevent them from getting COVID and prevent them from getting super sick. So I guess that they have a more one-on-one kind of treatment, if you will, if they get sick. But nonetheless, guys, you're still taking somebody out of their home and putting them in an area they don't want to go to so that you're protecting them. Now, again, on a humanitarian scale, it really wouldn't matter because these people are on the run, on the road. They're not in a home per se. They're at a camp, and they're going to take them out of that camp. Camp Liberty, for example, let's just use that as, and I know that was a military base. Let's take them out of Camp Liberty and put them in Camp Ashwagandha, because that's going to protect them and keep them safe from everyone else. That's the CDC's ideology. Now, the CDC's shielding approach is unrelated to New York State Assembly Bill 416, so please keep that in mind. Again, similar language, but in reverse, and it has nothing to do with one another, though the CDC's bill came out in 2020, right? Last year it came out, or around May or so last year. And the COVID bill, the Assembly Bill 416 came out earlier this year. So again, unrelated, but see how ideologies catch on. The shielding approach from CDC, a few months later, New York State comes up with their version, then Tennessee comes up with their version. If I'm not mistaken, there are a couple other states that have a similar version of removing potentially dangerous people out of their homes into facilities. Now, Tennessee has the Tennessee State Executive Order number 83. This bill, or executive order rather, had the same language as the New York State A416 bill, with the exception of they were talking about building quarantine facilities or sanctioning facilities for people who were a potential hazard. So that was just the one part in the executive order bill. Now that bill, since it was introduced, has been shot down. But this is what Tennessee State Executive Order number 83 read. Temporary quarantine and isolation may be constructed. The provision of Tennessee Code Section 8611-202 are hereby suspended to allow for construction of temporary structures, the plans for which would otherwise be subjected to review for new construction, addition, or substantial alteration as directed by the Commissioner of Health and Director of TEMA in response to COVID-19. Provide that there shall be inspections such structures to ensure safety as necessary. So guys, basically they're looking to start building quarantine zones or structures, which ultimately, guys, turns into zones, right? Because you're not going to build one structure, a standalone structure. You're going to build a bunch of structures, and then you're going to constitute that as a zone, quarantine zone. Now, this is in Tennessee, but this was shot down. Now, Florida has something similar. They have a Florida State Senate Bill 2006. The bill reads as such, guys: ordering an individual to be examined, tested, vaccinated, treated, isolated, or quarantined for communicable diseases that have significant morbidity or mortality and present a severe danger to public health, or individuals who are unable or unwilling to be examined, treated, vaccinated for reasons of health, religion, or conscience may be subjected to isolation or quarantine. Now, this is in the Florida State Senate Bill 2006 that DeSantis signed earlier this year, May 3rd to be exact. So Mr. DeSantis is not the hero that everybody thinks he is, because he signed this bill, unless he signed it blindly. Now, guys, here's the kicker. Section 4, Part A, examination, testing, and vaccination or treatment may be performed by a qualified person authorized by the state health officer. Part B, if individuals pose a danger to the public health, the state officer may subject the individual to isolation or quarantine. If there is no practical method of isolation or quarantine, the state health officer may use any means necessary to vaccinate or treat the individual. Guys, that is Section 4, two parts, A and B. that means that either, again, he signed it blindly, was like, fuck it, I'm just going to sign it, or he read this and goes, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. That's two school of thoughts. Or he read that part in the bill and was like, fuck it. If we have to get to the quarantine part, then we might. But forcing people to be treated or quarantined or given the injection, guys, is the problem. That's the problem with that bill. That bill reads like radioactive material when you compare it to New York State's A416. All right, guys, so this is the problem. These ideologies are problematic because these ideologies spread like cancer. When you have people who look at these bills and go, man, that sounds like a good idea. Let's write something and put something together, and then we'll introduce it and see where it goes. The worst that can happen is to get shot down. That's one way of thinking. That's one way of those assholes thinking. Then you got celebrities that suggest the same thing. Now, these celebrities are suggesting the same thing, and politicians are going, that's a good idea. Again, guys, these ideologies are like cancer. It spreads. It starts with one person, and people who will read that and go, this is not going to go anywhere. Well, when they suggested this probably back in 2020, a couple of celebrities had suggested this, or suggested something similar to it, sorry. People were like, that's never going to happen. 2021 rolls around, and Florida, Tennessee, and New York come up with similar bills, speaking the same language. The CDC introduces a bill like that, or an operation, like that back in 2020. Guys, this only gets worse. This ideology only gets worse. So what are we going to do? We're going to sit here and fucking take it in the ass, or we're going to sit there and fight back? Now, a lot of you are thinking, we'll fight back when we cross that bridge. Because again, guys, a lot of this is ideology. It might not go anywhere. It might all die at this stage. But this is something we need to be aware of, and we need to take note of this happening. All right, guys, this is the Angryprepper. Thank you for watching the Angryprepper channel. You can like and subscribe to this channel. You can also head over to the Angry Truths channel, like and subscribe to that. And if you want to follow me on social media, look in the description section below and follow me on those links down there. All right, guys, thank you for watching.